Hi, all. I hope you all are doing good. Welcome back to my channel. I am super glad and excited to welcome you back. This is the part two of networking in Docker. If you're following this lecture or this video, or let's say the series from part one, you know that in part one, we had built a Dockerized container which was running with Flask, which basically is which is Python, and we had exposed an API called My Fortune, which gives you a random fortune. So we started with building that API first locally, followed by creating a Docker file, then creating a Docker image, and then subsequently a Docker container. So I hope you remember that part. In case you have not seen that video or you do not remember what we exactly did, I'd already linked this video for you, the previous video for you, in the I button, and it should also be in the description section of this video, so you can always go back and check. Now, what we are more interested in is spawning the second container, which is going to be a Cowsay container. And after spawning the Cowsay container, we would like what we would need to do is like get the input from container one, or rather get the output from container one, or use that as the input in container two, which is going to be a Cowsay container, which essentially means that these two containers would need to communicate with each other. And why is that important, and why is this concept really important? I will also let you know about this. I have created one image for you to actually help you navigate to this, right? And if you see this specific image which I've created for you, we have two containers. Yes, at the moment we only have one container, but we are already going to spawn the second container very soon, so don't worry about it. But if you look at the first container, which is Fortune Python based Flask application, this is an isolated container itself. And the second container, which is Cowsay container, this is also a separate container in itself, right? So both these containers are isolated with each other. And when I say isolated, it means that these two containers cannot communicate with each other. So this is where the difficulty lies. Because if container 1 is not able to communicate with container 2, then the output from container 1 will never flow to container 2. And like what we want would never be fulfilled, right? So this is the problem statement that we are looking at. And obviously the solution to this is something called a network bridge that will actually cover in this specific video, right? But again, before moving to more before moving into more depth of network bridges and networking in Docker, I would like to let you know that there are actually three types of communication in Docker. The first one is called your container internet communication, which means you have a Docker container and you want to connect with the internet, which is like a freely available resource. So you could always connect a Docker container with internet, and it would always work for you. The second type of communication is a Docker container and your local system communication or connectivity. So let's just assume that you have a container, which again, let's say is running a Flask application, and you have a MySQL server running on your local system. How do you establish the connectivity from the container to the MySQL server, which is running on your local system? So this is the second connectivity that is there, or second networking concept that is there in Docker, which we call as container network. Container host machine connectivity. And the third is the one that we are currently looking at this video, which is a container networking or container connectivity, where there are two different containers and they want to interact with each other, but because of the isolation they cannot. So how do we resolve that? So I have told you the answer to the above before only, and you know that we resolve this via something called a network bridge. But for the second one, which is like your network, which is like your Docker local host connectivity, we use something called host.docker.internal protocol. Again, I'm not going to the second type of connectivity in this video. I can have a separate video to explain about this, but right now we are more focusing on the container networking or container connectivity, right? So I hope with this expression in mind, you now have the problem statement, like what we are looking to solve, right? And then we'll like now and from now on, like we will base our solution based on that problem statement. Correct. So yeah, without further ado, let's move forward. And so I would want to spawn up my second container, And to spawn up my second container, I'd be using something as a Docker image called, we'll show you the Docker image. Uh, this Docker image is called Whalesay slash Cowsay. Sorry, it's called Docker slash Whalesay. So it's a adaptation of the Linux Cowsay game. So it has given you some history right over here. So you could always like will be using this specific image for our use case, right? So what I will do for you is I will go to my terminal. Okay, I will open up my terminal for you, and I will run this specific image, or I will pull this specific image for you and run it via containers. So I would say docker run followed by the name of the container, which is going to be and the name of the container as fortune cow say container, followed by the image of the container, which is docker slash whalesay. Correct. I will just copy this from over here. uh, do I need to give do I need to give some any other command for this? So you could always write like Cowsay and followed by whatever you want to write. So Cowsay konnichiwa Anubhav, right? Something like this, and I've also put a dash rm flag over here so that the container is automatically removed once it exits. So something like this, and if I do so, okay, it tells there is unknown short flag. Acha, I think it might be r dash dash rm, I think. Yep. So it's not able to find the image locally, and this is what I wanted. So it will pull the image from Docker Hub. Meanwhile, give it some time so that it could pull the image, because it's a fairly large image, I think around 65 MBs or so. So it will take up some time depending upon your network connectivity. So if you need a coffee break, be back in a minute or so. And I will be back in a minute or so, actually. So yes, now the image is completely downloaded, and as you can see, like we get this output as konnichiwa Anubhav, right? So this is what we wanted, but the point being, what we want is this specific line, right? This should come from the output of your first container and not a specific hard-coded text. Correct. So this is what our problem statement is, but I have let you know that okay, this is how we like this is how the image will behave, and this is what the output will be shown. But yeah, now we come to the point that we want the output from container 1 to flow into container 2, and because of this I want to go, or I want to navigate inside container 2. All right, so like I want to go inside the shell of the container 2, I can say you, right? So I will just like modify this command a little bit. So can I write something like docker run dash dash name, name is called fortune cow say container, right, followed by your entry point, which I want as shell, followed by your image, which is docker slash whalesay, and I want to run this in interactive mode. Correct. So yep, let me run this command for you, and as you can see I'm now inside the shell, right? So what happens, like so you know that our uh, the first container is actually accessible by something called localhost followed by port 3009, right? This, okay, I think it's not accessible because it might have been stopped. Let me check. Okay. Should be accessible. Actually, I'm not sure why. Okay, yep. I'm not getting any. Sorry. My bad. So, what the issue is, I will actually delete this. I will go to my Docker container and I will delete this container actually. So I actually messed up the naming a little bit. So I will just showcase you once more. So this is the first container that I'm showcasing you currently. The one which is running with the Flask based API, right? Or the API which was written by Flask. So docker run dash p 3009 followed by dash dash name, which is your the name should be Fortune Cowsay 01 Cowsay container rather, followed by your image which is Fortune Cowsay v2, right? So this is what the first container would look like. uh, and my bad, I want to run this in detached mode, so I will just add the flag dash d as well. I would again, I think, need to delete the container first, because otherwise the name of the container would be same. So yeah, deleting this container followed by dash t. Yep. So as you can see, this container should now be up and running, and yes, it is working, right? And similarly, I will spawn up the second container and I will give the name as Cowsay container rather than Fortune Cowsay container. So like I just messed up the naming a little bit in the second container. So that's what the issue was. Cowsay container, right? And as you can see, I'm inside the shell over here, right? And if I want to access this specific thing or the API, the My Fortune API, would I be able to access this from the second container? Do you think the answer would be a yes or no? In case you are confused, let's just do the experiment and see what the answer is. Though I can give you the answer is no. If you know the reasons, well and good. If you don't, just follow along and I will let you know why. So if I write something like curl localhost 3009 followed by my fortune, this would not work. Oh, it actually says curl command not found, but I can install curl. So I can just write apt install curl first. It's just like reading some packages. So let it read the packages. So it tells me that I need to first run apt get update. I will run it first. Yep, so my apt get update is now successful. And with that, like what I will do is I will again run apt install curl, which will install curl for me, right? So let me just do that real quick for you. Apt install curl. This should take around a minute or so to install curl, I believe, because it's going to be a fairly large package as far as I know. So yes, we are done installing curl actually now. And now what we'll be doing is like I will be hitting that command again, which is curl localhost 3009 slash my fortune. So it tells me enable to connect with port localhost at port 3009, connection refused, right? And this is because I'm inside the container. But your point should come as Anubhav, let's say when I am out, like when I'm hitting it from this machine, this is working, right? Like I'm using localhost 3009 slash fortune and this is working. But when I'm doing it inside the container, from inside the container second, this is not working. Why is this the case? So the answer to this is very simple and lies in the infrastructure or how Docker has been programmed, right? So if you remember, like when you were exposing container one or when you were creating container one, you'd used a command called port mapping. You have used in the command Docker run, you had used something called port mapping, which was exposing port 3009 of your host system to 3009 of your Docker, right? And container 1 and container 2 are two separate containers in itself, which are again isolated. So while you're inside container 2 and you say localhost, it actually means localhost of container 2 and not localhost that you are referring to in this specific section. my bad, sorry. So when you say localhost, it like while you're saying localhost from your host machine, it makes a lot of sense because you are referring to the localhost at port 3009, right? But while you are saying localhost from container 2, what happens is it assumes that okay, this is localhost means localhost for container 2, and container 2 is not running any API, right? It has not exposed port 3009, and hence it showcases you that connection refused for port 3009. So that is why things would not work. But I know some of you will say, okay, why are you using localhost 3009? But we can also use the container name, right? Like the container name for container 1. And should that work? Let's just see if it would work or not. So if I use the container name for container 1, which is, I believe that is called Fortune Cowsay container. And I will just recheck that actually. Container port 3009 slash my fortune. uh is that the name? It's called fortune Cowsay container, yes. So if I go back to my terminal, if I hit this, do you think this would work? This would not also work because it says that it's unable to resolve this specific host, right? And again, the reason because these two are two different containers which cannot communicate with each other, and hence it's not able to resolve the things, right? It's not able to understand what does fortune cow say means. Like container 2 is not able to understand either localhost, because localhost for container 2 and because we are inside container 2 refers to container 2. And obviously we have not exposed any API, or we have not even exposed any port for container 2, and hence like it cannot understand what localhost 3009 means. But at the same time it also cannot understand what fortune Cowsay means in terms of container 1, because it has no way to know that the something exists called fortune Cowsay. So now the answer to this lies, like how do we solve this problem? The answer to this lies inside something called Docker network bridges, right? So a network bridge is something that you use to connect two different containers. So for that, we'd first need to create a network bridge, right? Stop both these containers, say that container 1 also belongs to the same network bridge as container 2, then go inside container 2, and then like do a curl command again and see if it works or not. And I'm pretty sure this would work this time. So yeah, let's get started to that. What I will do is I will stop both the containers first, because I would need to create a network bridge first and then use that network bridge to create both the containers again. So I'll go to my dashboard. I will delete both the containers, this one and this one. Correct. I will now go back to my terminal. What I will write is I will say docker network sorry, I think it's called docker create network Anubhav network 01. So this will create a bridge network. Oh, sorry, it should be my bad. I think it should be docker network create, or should it be docker network? I forgot. Let me just look the command real quick for you. Docker creating network bridge. Sometimes I do forget this command, so it's just good to check how to create. Okay, it's just docker network followed by the name of the network. So it should be docker network Anubhav network 01. It's still not working. Okay, so yeah, I was right actually. Docker network create Anubhav 01. So yeah, this has created a bridge network for you, right? So and the name of that bridge network is, or network bridge is actually Anubhav network 01. So yeah, I mean, if I were to look from over here, yeah, there was this docker network create. So I just forgot this command, and this is a part of bridge network, right? So if I go back, so yeah, this specific network is created for you, right? And now what we need to do is we need to establish a link, right, between container 1 and container 2. And the link between both these containers is this bridge network. I hope I'm pronouncing this right, and it's not called network bridge, but yeah, it's called bridge network only. So I do get some confused between the nomenclature sometimes, but do bear with me. The concept remains the same. So yeah, uh, like we've created this bridge network, and now I want to link the bridge network to my container 1 and the bridge network to my container 2 actually. So let me do that real quick. The command remains the same, just that we need to add an extra flag. So what I can do is docker run dash t followed by dash p, which is 3009 to 3009, followed by your name, which is I've given the name as fortune Cowsay container, followed by dash dash network, which would be Anubhav network 01, followed by your image name, which would be fortune Cowsay v2, correct? And as you can see, this is now up and running successfully. And at the same time, I also need to create the second container as well and link it with this bridge network, which should be by using this command dash dash it. I don't need a port. The name of that container would be Cowsay container, and I think they've again I need to specify the network tab, which would be above network 01, followed by dash dash entry point, which I know is sh, followed by the image name, which I would again copy paste from this, which is called docker slash whalesay. So going till over here, and okay, I think I made a mistake in the spelling of docker. So again, a no mistake which I made. You should not be making these mistakes, but it's all right until you're able to debug it. Oh, have I made any mistake again? Unknown flag dash dash it. Oh, it should be dash it and not dash dash it. Yep, so I'm inside the container now, container 2 basically now. And do you think now I'd be able to reach container 1 from inside container 2? Let's just see if that's the case. But I think again, because I've deleted that container, I would need to reinstall curl, but I will just check apt install curl. So yeah, I would need to reinstall all the packages again. That's sad life, but anyways, I will do that. Meanwhile, if you guys want, you can get your coffee, because this will take some time to get installed, maybe around a minute or two. So it tells me I have to get apt-get update again. So I will just run this, and till it runs, maybe take a coffee break, revise the concepts, and get back again. Yep, so now the specific thing is installed, which is like the updates are installed. I can rerun the command to get curl back. So I can just write apt install curl. It will install curl. It's a heavy package, so take about a minute or so, I think. Not too long though. Again, but that depends on your internet connectivity as well. So yeah, curl is also installed for me now. What I would now do is I would just do a curl and see if things I'm able to reach container 1 from inside container 2 or not. So I can just write curl fortune Cowsay dash container followed by 3009 followed by my fortune. This should now work for me. Let's see. And yes, it's working. Like this, if you remember, this was not working earlier before, but it's working now. So yeah, that's how we established a container and networking. That is, we use something called a bridge network. Uh, and we connect both the containers via it, right? And it's working now, so which means I can now say Cowsay followed by I would need to write like this, curl dash s followed by fortune dash Cowsay dash container followed by 43009 slash my fortune, something like this, and let's see if it works or not. And I'm pretty sure it would work this time. And yes, this works. This is what I wanted to showcase you, right? Like, this is what we have been working for the past like 30-35 minutes in the video one, and 20 minutes around in video two, to get to this point. And I'm successful in showcasing you, and I hope you're able to understand like how connectivity between two Docker containers work, two independent isolated Docker containers work. How do you create a bridge network? How do you connect it to it? And how those stuff actually works. So yes, this is what I wanted to showcase. And congratulations if you followed along till the end. Like, I mean, following till the end is the game, right? Like, until you follow, the moment you follow till the end, you have the complete knowledge, and now you can go back and try to play around and fiddle with different things and work out your way in a better manner. So yes, thank you for watching my tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and you are now comfortable with all the concepts. Do like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye bye.